I hadn't planned on listening to Fourth Wing, but it just so happened that I had finished listening to the first book in another series, and I knew that somebody else was going to gift me the second book in that series. So I couldn't guess it myself because I knew that was yet to come, but I had to fill the time in between that with listening to something else. And Fourth Wing is everywhere, and on the spur of the moment, I decided, okay then, because I had been slightly prejudiced against it because I don't know if this is right, but I thought that it was, one of those books that had got popular on TikTok, and TikTok it's, for young people, and books that had become popular there before I hadn't had the best experience of. And I don't understand or get TikTok but even if I were to want to use TikTok, it's inaccessible to me because it's all videos and there's no audio description, and obviously because of my neck I can only listen to audiobooks, I can't watch videos. I also thought it wasn't going to be for me because of the dragons. All I knew about it was dragons, maybe a bit of romance in there, and that's all I knew going into it. It was about dragon riders or something. And dragons are a funny one for me because even though from a young age I was into fantasy books, it was things like the Wind on Fire series by William Nicholson, The Dark is Rising sequence by Susan Cooper, The Song of the Lioness Quartet, and The Protector of the Small Quartet by Tamora Pierce, His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, that sort of thing. No dragons there, and it's actually the reason why I nearly never read Harry Potter, because it had a dragon in, and I thought, not for me. I thought that was a bit of a stretch. But magic, of course, wasn't. It was completely reasonable. But yes, I didn't read Harry Potter until I was about 13 or 14. So only the first 3 books were out then. And I'd pretended to give it a chance before then because my younger brother kept going on and on about how wonderful it was. And so I read the first page, and the first page only, and said, no, not for me. And that was when I was younger, and I said I'd given it a chance, not for me. But of course, later when I was 13 or 14 and I was bored during a summer holidays maybe, I thought, I'll give it a proper try, and then of course I loved it. So I was a bit prejudiced against Fourth Wing before going into it, but I just thought while I'm waiting, and told myself not to exclude it just because it was popular, and I never wanted to fall into that trap again. And if it's that popular, it's probably going to be quite good, even though that's not always the case, but usually if something's popular, there's a reason for it. This is going to be a very short review. Basically, I really enjoyed it. It was fast-paced, fun, and I was never once bored, which to me is one of the best compliments you can give to a book, because I don't like it when things drag and you get bored. I found the plot very engaging, all the different stages, so with the challenges and the gauntlet obstacle course, all the training before we even got to the threshing. And yes, even I enjoyed the dragons and their characters and the relationship with the riders, and also the broader plot, the difference between what they're being told and what is actually going on in their world, and the unravelling mystery of that. I came to really enjoy the group of friends, and so there was one genuinely heartbreaking moment, which I will not mention, but because this is a spoiler-free review, but you will be moved. However, even though fantasy, dystopian and science fiction are my favourite book genres, I don't mind, and even quite like, if there's a bit of romance in there, as long as it's not the main focus, if it's just to the side and done well. And with the romance in Fourth Wing, I felt it was a bit cringy and over the top and got more obsessive. It was very obvious from the beginning what was going to happen in that love triangle. So the romance was a bit heavy-handed at times and skewed towards younger, so it came across as more teenagey, even though the protagonist was meant to be 20 years old, I think, and it just came across as younger, and it became more all-consuming and a bit annoying, and for a while took over the focus of the book instead of the plot. And the thing that I liked about Violet at the beginning was that she seemed clever, and I liked that it seems that she has EDS, although Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which I've never come across in a fantasy book or any other book that a main character had it, and I certainly have never come across the word subluxate in fiction before, so that was quite something. But then after, as it wore on, we kept being told that Violet was clever and cunning, but it didn't appear so much because there were things that she should have realised a lot sooner, and you were screaming, and it was more, but how? And how is this possible? And she didn't add 1 + 1 to equal 2, really. Things which we'd realised a long time ago she wasn't getting, so she didn't. That makes you think as a reader or listener, in my case, that she's not too bright, and she seemed to be change. I know she was naturally changing, but you don't suddenly not become clever, and you don't suddenly become a hothead, and it just seemed very quite angsty and melodramatic, and yes, but it's still, all throughout that, I still was enjoying it, and it was the twist at the end, although most of the other plot you can see coming. The very, very last line, literally, or few lines, yes, that was, I enjoyed that surprise. But I didn't enjoy it slipping into Xaden's point of view, that when it went from Violet, changed from Violet to Xaden, because I don't know what that read like, but listening to it was pretty terrible. So I hope in the next book that the narrator is maybe changed for Xaden or that we don't get any point of view from Xaden again, because it just sounded awful and not like how I'd imagined him from when the other narrator was reading him, and it seems a lot more clunky and clumsy in writing as a result. But yes, I am going to listen to the next book in the series and look forward to it.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider taking a look at gofundme.com/SaveJenny, where I'm fundraising for urgently needed neurosurgery that's not available for me here in the UK. Thank you.